Welcome to this deep dive. You've given us some really fascinating source material today.
Yeah, it's about a place that's definitely sparked a lot of imagination. The Mapimí Silent Zone.
Or Zona del Silencio in Spanish. It's got that ring to it, doesn't it?
It really does. Conjures up, mystery deep in the Mexican desert.
And it's supposedly a place where, well, strange things happen.
That's the reputation. Exactly. Weird phenomena.
So that's our mission today, right? To unpack this using the sources you've brought.
Yep. We'll look at the known facts first.
Yeah.
The real place.
And then dive into the conspiracy theories, because there seem to be quite a few.
Oh, absolutely. They're pretty wild.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at the scientific side, the alternative explanations.
Okay. Because the core idea is, what? A remote desert spot where compasses spin, radios go dead.
Pretty much. Signals disappear, and maybe even stranger things, or so the stories go.
All right, let's start grounding this. What is the Mapimí Silent Zone, geographically? Where are we talking about?
Okay, so it's definitely a real area, not fictional.
Good start.
It's inside the Mapimí Biosphere Reserve, a big protected area, UNESCO recognized, actually.
And that spans a few Mexican states.
Yeah, parts of Durango, Coahuila, and Chihuahua, right in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert.
So it is a real designated place on the map.
Totally. Landscape is typical desert, flat, arid, some low mountains, very remote.
Sparsely populated, I imagine. Extreme temperatures.
You got it. It's a tough environment. Not many people around.
And the sources really emphasize the ground itself, the geology. What's going on there?
Yeah, that's key. The area has significant deposits of magnetite.
Magnetite, that's magnetic iron ore, right?
Exactly. Plus other metallic minerals. And the soil itself, high iron content.
Partly from old meteorite impacts, the sources mentioned.
For millennia, yeah. The whole region's seen impacts. So this specific geology, this is really important for what comes later.
Right, because it connects to the silence part of the name. People actually experience signal problems there.
They do. It's a documented thing. Visitors report radio, TV, sometimes even cell signals are weak.
Or just gone, distorted.
Yep, distorted or just nothing. That difficulty with electronic communication, that's literally where the name comes from. Zona del Silencio.
Okay, so real place, remote desert, unique geology, known signal interference. That's our baseline.
That's the factual backdrop.
So how does that place turn into this global hub for conspiracy theories? What was the spark?
Well, the big catalyst seems to be a single event. Summer of 1970.
What happened?
A NASA Athena rocket crashed there.
A rocket. Okay, tell us about that. That does sound dramatic.
It's launched by the U.S. Air Force, actually, from White Sands in New Mexico.
A test flight.
Supposed to be. It was meant to land in a specific test area, but it went way off course.
How far off?
Hundreds of miles south, veered completely off its trajectory, and crashed deep inside the Mapimí Desert area.
Wow. And wasn't there something specific about this rocket, what it was carrying?
There was. It had 2 small containers of cobalt-57.
Which is radioactive?
Yeah, a radioactive isotope. They used it for atmospheric research back then.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Advanced rocket goes wildly off course, carrying radioactive stuff. And it just happens to crash land in this specific remote desert known for weird signal issues and geology.
Precisely. You can see why eyebrows were raised.
What happened next? On the ground.
A huge recovery operation, very fast. Joint U.S.-Mexican team military scientists.
Sent out right away.
Super quickly. Specialized equipment cordoned off the site. And the sources say they didn't just take the rocket bits.
What else?
They apparently excavated and removed a lot of the soil around the crash site. Shipped it all back to the U.S.
Removing the soil, too.
Yeah.
Okay, that level of cleanup, that fast in that spot, that fuels speculation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Why here? Why such an intense recovery?
The official explanation was just, oops, mechanical failure.
That was the line. But for a lot of people, that didn't quite add up. The location felt too coincidental.
And the scale of the recovery felt excessive.
Exactly. It felt unusually intense. And this whole event, it landed right on top of existing local folklore.
There were already stories.
Yeah, scattered local tales about strange lights, weird happenings, nothing concrete, just whispers.
But the rocket crash gave it all a focus. A big, dramatic event.
It really did. It amplified those old stories, gave them a modern, high-tech anchor.
Okay, so the Athena crash lights a fuse. What are the main conspiracy theories about the zone today? What do people believe is really going on?
Well, the core idea is that the silence isn't just natural. It's not just distance or minerals.
What is it then? according to the theories?
They claim it's caused by a powerful, maybe even artificial electromagnetic vortex or some kind of energy field.
A field strong enough to actively block signals.
That's the idea, that it absorbs or deflects radio waves, TV, messes with compasses, electronics.
Some theories go even further, right? Affecting time.
Yeah, some versions suggest it can make clocks go weird, create time distortions. Pretty far out stuff.
And this links to the meteorite magnet idea, that the zone pulls things in.
That's part of it. An extension of the energy field idea, that the zone actively attracts meteorites, space junk.
And the Athena rocket crash is Exhibit A for that.
For proponents, yes. A man-made object falling from space, landing right there, proof of the pull.
They also link it to other meteorite finds, like the Allende meteorite.
They do. Allende fell nearby in '69, just the year before. Huge, important meteorite.
Even though it wasn't in the zone exactly.
Right, but close enough in time and space that theorists connect the dots. More evidence of this attraction, they say.
With things supposedly being drawn there, it's probably no surprise UFOs get involved.
Oh, definitely. The zone is considered a major UFO hotspot.
Lots of sightings reported.
Frequent claims, yeah. Strange lights, silent objects, impossible speeds. Standard UFO fare, but concentrated there.
And theories about alien bases or portals?
Both. Some think there's a hidden base, maybe underground. Others see it as a portal, like a doorway for ETs or interdimensional beings.
Wow, okay. Does this then bleed into general paranormal claims too?
It often does. The theories can expand to include ghosts, apparitions, weird voices, strange lights that aren't called UFOs, objects moving.
Like residual energy or tied to the aliens?
Could be either, depending on the specific theory. It all gets bundled together.
What about the plants and animals? Sources mention claims about them being affected.
Yeah, that's another layer. The claim is the zone's energy causes mutations or unusual growth.
Like what? Giant cacti, weirdly colored animals.
Things like that. Proponents point to unusual-looking flora or fauna as proof of the zone's strange influence.
And running underneath all these different claims is the idea of a cover-up.
That's fundamental, the belief that governments, probably US and Mexican, know the truth.
Whatever that truth is, the vortex, the aliens.
Right, and they're actively hiding it. The Athena recovery is often pointed to as prime evidence for this secrecy.
Secret government labs in the desert, studying the anomaly or maybe alien tech.
That's the speculation. Motives vary: national security, preventing panic, controlling the technology.
Some theories even bring in ancient civilizations or ley lines.
A few do, yeah, suggesting ancient people knew about it. Or it's like an earth chakra, a powerful energy point on a global grid.
Like the Bermuda Triangle, but in the desert.
Kind of, yeah. That same sort of mystical energy spot idea.
Okay, so quite a collection of claims. When proponents argue for this, what specific evidence do they usually point to?
Well, they see validation everywhere. But the Athena crash is number one.
The fact that it happened there.
Exactly. A sophisticated rocket going haywire and landing precisely in the zone. To them, that screams external influence, not just random failure.
And the recovery operation seals the deal for them. Proof of secrecy.
Totally. The speed, taking the soil, that's interpreted as irrefutable evidence they found something they wanted to hide and study.
And the everyday experience of the radio silence, that's direct proof for believers.
Absolutely. When visitors go there and their radios do cut out or their phones lose signal.
It feels real. First-hand confirmation.
Exactly. It reinforces the idea that this isn't just some story. Something measurable is happening to technology. Creates that eerie, cut-off feeling.
What about compasses malfunctioning?
That's another key piece of anecdotal evidence. People report compasses spinning, pointing the wrong way.
Which they attribute to the magnetic vortex.
Directly. Proof of powerful, localized magnetic fields messing things up.
And the Allende meteorite gets pulled in as supporting evidence, too.
It does. Even though it fell outside the zone proper, its timing just before Athena and proximity are seen as too coincidental.
More proof of the zone's pull on things from space.
That's how it's framed. The fact that Allende is scientifically important just adds to the mystique.
And then, of course, the UFO sightings themselves.
Yeah, all the reports from locals, visitors, unexplained lights, silent craft, they're taken as confirmation.
Confirmation of either aliens or maybe secret government craft?
Either or both, depending on the theory. The isolation just helps hide whatever it is.
There's one story that seems really specific and keeps popping up: the three blondes.
Ah, yes. That's a really persistent, distinctive piece of the lore.
What's the story there?
Many people, locals, visitors, report encountering three individuals. Tall, fair-skinned, very blonde,
Just appearing out of nowhere in the middle of the desert.
seemingly, often described as well-dressed, fluent Spanish speakers. They ask for water, typically.
Yeah.
And then they supposedly vanish, just disappear without a trace. Really unsettling.
And proponents see them as...
Non-human, maybe aliens, maybe interdimensional beings. The consistency of this specific story makes it very compelling evidence for believers.
Right. And the claims about weird plants or animals.
Seeing a cactus that looks huge or an animal with odd coloring that's presented as tangible proof.
Proof the zone's energy is causing mutations.
Yeah, interpreting natural variation or adaptation through the lens of the mystery.
And finally, people sometimes report feeling physically weird there.
Some do. Anecdotal reports of headaches, feeling dizzy, nauseous, attributed to the EM fields or other unknown energies.
Okay. I can definitely see how if you put all that together. The rocket crash, the personal experiences with signals or compasses, the weird stories like the blondes, it weaves a pretty compelling narrative if you're inclined to believe.
It really does.
But let's pivot to the scientific perspective and the sources. It seems there are explanations for most of this stuff, right? Grounded explanations.
Largely, yes. Mainstream science looks at this and tends to explain the observations using known physics, geology, psychology. The extraordinary claims just lack empirical backing.
Okay, let's tackle the big one first. The radio silence. What's the scientific take?
Two main factors, both pretty straightforward. First, the zone is incredibly remote.
The signals are just weak anyway, being far from transmitters.
Exactly. And second, crucially, remember the geology. The high concentration of metallic minerals, especially magnetite,
Yeah.
well, those minerals naturally absorb and scatter electromagnetic waves. Radio, TV signals.
So it's a known geological effect, not a mystery vortex.
Correct. It physically interferes with signals passing through or near the ground, weakens them, it happens.
Okay, so the geology explains the silence. What about compasses going nuts?
Same answer, really. Geology again. Large magnetite deposits create natural, localized magnetic anomalies.
Little patches of weird magnetism.
Basically, strong enough to interfere with a compass needle, which wants to point to the main north magnetic pole. These local fields can confuse it or override it.
And that happens in other places with similar geology, too.
Absolutely. It's a well-understood phenomenon, not unique to the zone.
What about the Athena rocket crash itself? How does science view that?
The official explanation hasn't changed. Mechanical failure in the guidance system.
Just bad luck it landed there.
Scientifically speaking, yes. A striking coincidence for sure, given the legends that followed, but there's zero evidence it was pulled there by anything.
And the big recovery operation, taking the soil.
Standard procedure, really, when military tech crashes, especially with radioactive material like cobalt-57 involved.
You clean it up thoroughly for safety and security.
Exactly. It doesn't automatically mean they were covering up something about the location's weird properties. Just standard protocol for sensitive materials.
Okay, what about the meteorite magnet idea? Does the zone actually attract them?
Scientifically? No. Meteorites fall randomly everywhere.
So why are finds reported there?
Because deserts, especially big flat ones like that, are fantastic places to find meteorites.
Easier to spot them, less vegetation, slow erosion.
Precisely. They stand out, they last longer on the surface, so you find more there, not because more fall there, but because they're easier to discover.
Makes sense. And the UFO sightings.
Most likely the usual suspects: misidentified planes, satellites, meteors, atmospheric effects.
Things look different in the desert sky, especially at night.
Very different. Dark skies, isolation. Mundane things can seem extraordinary, plus you have psychological factors.
Like expectation.
Huh.
If you go there expecting to see a UFO.
You're much more likely to interpret ambiguous lights that way. Power of suggestion is strong.
What about the general paranormal stuff? Ghosts, voices.
Again, totally anecdotal, no empirical verification, in that kind of isolated, perhaps slightly unnerving environment.
Imagination runs wild, natural sounds get misinterpreted.
Easily. Psychological effects, auditory illusions, pareidolia, seeing patterns where there are none.
And the mutated plants and animals.
There's just no solid scientific evidence of widespread weird mutations beyond normal desert adaptations.
So the giant cacti or strange critters are probably just desert life. Maybe exaggerated.
Likely explainable by natural variation, harsh conditions, or maybe a bit of exaggeration in the retelling.
And the tale of the three blondes, from a skeptical view.
Classic urban legend. Compelling story, specific details, spreads by word of mouth.
But no verifiable basis. Just a good campfire story.
Pretty much fits the pattern of modern folklore. Intriguing, but not evidence of aliens.
So summing up the science side, despite all the stories, no credible study has found anything truly anomalous. No physics-defying fields, no time warps, no alien bases.
That's the scientific consensus based on the sources, yes. The observable things, like the silence or compass issues, have known geological explanations. The rest lacks verifiable proof.
Okay, so if the science offers explanations for the core phenomena, why does the legend persist so strongly? Why are people still so fascinated?
Well, there are a few layers to that, I think. Deserts themselves just have this mystique, don't they?
Yeah, vast, empty, kind of alienating, good setting for a mystery.
Exactly. Fertile ground for stories of the unknown. And the idea of a hidden anomaly there is just captivating.
The distrust factor seems big too, the whole Athena crash situation.
Definitely. That perceived secrecy, combined with general skepticism about government transparency, it feeds the narrative.
They must be hiding something.
Right. It taps into that conspiracy mindset.
And you mentioned the portal idea resonates.
Yeah, that taps into something really old, that archetype of a place outside normal reality, a gateway.
Yeah.
Very powerful idea.
Confirmation bias has to play a role too, right?
Yeah. Huge role. Once you know the legend, any little odd thing you experience there, weak signal, weird shadow, confirms what you already suspect.
You filter everything through that lens.
Instead of looking for a mundane explanation first.
And locally, the stories are part of the identity now. Maybe even tourism.
For sure. The legends are part of the region's character. They draw people in because of the mystery. So there's an incentive, conscious or not, to keep the stories going.
Plus, media just loves this stuff.
Oh yeah. Books, TV shows, websites, they amplify the legend, often hyping the sensational parts. It keeps the story alive and reaches new people.
It really taps into that human desire to believe there's more out there, doesn't it?
Absolutely. A place where the ordinary rules maybe don't apply, where secrets exist that science hasn't admitted or discovered yet.
Okay, so let's recap our journey through the source material you brought. We started with the real place, Mapimí Biosphere Reserve.
Right, we looked at the geography, the desert climate, and that really key geology, the magnetite, the iron-rich soil.
Then we saw how the legend really took off after that 1970 NASA Athena rocket crash.
Yeah, carrying Cobalt-57 going way off course and that very extensive recovery, including the soil removal.
And how that dramatic event connected with older local folklore.
Exactly, gave it a modern hook.
We went through the main conspiracy claims. The big one being that powerful electromagnetic anomaly.
Affecting signals, compasses, maybe even time.
The meteorite magnet idea linking Athena and the Linde.
The UFO hotspot theories, potential alien bases or portals.
Claims of other paranormal stuff, weird plants and animals attributed to the zone's energy.
And always that core belief in a government cover-up and secret research.
Then we looked at the evidence proponents site.
The Athena crash itself being Exhibit A.
The direct experience of radio silence or compass problems.
Connecting it to the Allende meteorite find.
All the UFO eyewitness accounts.
That very specific Three Blondes legend.
And anecdotal reports of weird biology or feeling strange there. But then we laid out the scientific counter-arguments from the sources.
Explaining the radio TV silence with remoteness and mineral absorption, that magnetite effect.
Compass issues caused by natural magnetic minerals in the ground.
Yeah.
Expected effect.
The Athena crash officially being mechanical failure, and the recovery standard procedure for that kind of sensitive radioactive material.
Meteorite finds being easier in deserts, not proof of attraction.
UFOs, likely misidentification or psychological factors.
Paranormal and biological claims lacking scientific proof, often anecdotal or exaggerated.
And the Three Blondes, likely being an urban legend. The key takeaway: no solid scientific proof for the really extraordinary claims.
Right, while known science explains the observable effects, like the silence.
And finally, we talked about why the legend sticks around.
The allure of the desert unknown, distrust of authority, the power of that portal idea.
Confirmation bias, local folklore becoming part of tourism, and media keeping the story front and center.
So yeah, the Mapimí Silent Zone really is this fascinating intersection, isn't it?
It is. Real geography. Real events like magnetic rocks and a rocket crash getting tangled up with human interpretation, storytelling.
And that basic human desire for mystery. Creating this legend that just endures.
The silence might be scientifically explainable, but the stories built on it are loud and clear about our fascination with the unexplained.
It's a great example of how facts and folklore feed each other.
Create something bigger, more mysterious than either one alone.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, listening to this deep dive. When you consider both sides, we've discussed the scientific explanations for what's observed in the Mapimí Zone and the sheer enduring power of the legend, all those stories.
What part of the whole Mapimí Silent Zone story do you find most compelling?
And maybe thinking more broadly, why do some mysteries, even ones that seem to have scientific answers on the table, still grab hold of our imagination so tightly and just refuse to let go?